Hello, loved one. It's Bible time. What do you do when the prayer looks sus? What do you do when the answer to the prayer you've been praying is eventually answered and it looks nothing like the unicorn and rainbows that you were looking for? What do you do? Let's read what we do. Today we're going to be in Exodus chapter 14, where we're reading an account of God answering the prayer of deliverance from slavery for the Israelites. They had been praying for years. They had been in slavery for 400 years at this time. And they're crying to their Lord to say, God, where are you? Show yourself. And therefore God shows up. And prior to what we're about to read, God had sent 10 plagues to the Egyptians, trying to show them that he is indeed the God of all things. And yet Pharaoh, time and again, was doubting whether it was possible that God would do these things. He'd have his sorcerers replicate the same miracle that Moses would have done, until one happened where the firstborn of every family in Egypt, other than those where the blood of the lamb had marked the doorposts, died. And that's when he said, enough is enough. Get to stepping, you Israelites. Get out of my country. But even after that, he had regrets of letting the Israelites go. And so we read the account of this in Exodus chapter 14. Just a little bit of background there for you. So we'll read from verse 1 so we get a full gist, because we love the word and we love to read the word. So let's read this beautiful book. It says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Tell the people of Israel to turn back and encamp in front of Pi-haroth, between Migdol and the sea, in front of Baal-zephon. You shall encamp it, facing it by the sea. For Pharaoh will say of the people of Israel, they are wandering in the land, and the wilderness has shut them in. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them. And I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his hosts, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. Listen, God has another vendetta over here. Inasmuch as he's answering the prayer of the Israelites, he's also making it known to the Egyptians that I am the Lord. I am the true one God. Therefore, even with you, sometimes the challenges you face are a demonstration to other people, honey, that you serve a living God, okay? Then it says, when the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, the mind of Pharaoh and his servants was changed towards the people. And they said, What is this that we have done? What that we have let the Israelites go from serving us? So he made ready his chariot and took his army with him. He chose violence. He said, I'm going to get them today, and took 600 chosen chariots and all the other chariots of Israel, with officers over all of them. He brought out all the guns. He came, guns blazing. Verse 8 it says, And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the people of Israel, while the people of Israel were going out defiantly. The Egyptians pursued them, all Pharaoh's horses and chariots and his horsemen and his army, and overtook them encamped at the sea by Pi-haroth in front of Baal-zephon. Loved one, this is a whole scene. This is a scary movie happening to the Israelites right here. Not only are they now with the sea in front of them, but behind them is dust clouds of chariots galloping towards them. A whole army of the Pharaoh of Egypt is coming out after them. And in verse 10 it says, When Pharaoh drew near, the people of Israel lifted up their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were marching after them, and they feared greatly. And the people of Israel cried out to the Lord. Listen, they said, Hold up, wait a minute. This is not what I signed up for. I thought that when the Lord was going to deliver me, I would walk out peacefully out of Egypt. But now here comes the Egyptians on their chariots marching towards us. And we don't even have weapons to defend ourselves. And so they look at Moses with a bombastic side eye. They say, Moses, Moses, hold up, wait a minute. What's going on right now? Because this is not what we thought it would be. This doesn't look the way that we envisioned it would look. They said to Moses, Is it because there are no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? Make it make sense, Moses. What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Is it not this what we said to you in Egypt? Leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians. For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. In this moment, where they are overcome by fear and doubt, the Israelites said, we might as well have stayed in slavery. The same place where they were crying out for the Lord to deliver them from. Because fear sometimes leads us to be illogical. Be careful of fear, loved one. Fear can drive you to say crazy things. Listen to them wishing they would rather be in slavery than be on this journey of deliverance. Being afraid will have you settling for things that are not even your portions, that are far below what God intends for you. But let's listen to how this continues, because you see the power of the Lord as we go forward from here. So after they look at Moses' side eye and ask him these questions, Moses says to the people, "Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, the circumstances that make you fearful today, the uncertainty that makes you scared today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent." Another version says, all you gotta do is be still. Right? And the Lord said to Moses, "Why do you cry out to me? Tell the people of Israel to go forward." My first question would be like, forward where? Because there's an ocean right in front of me. It says, "Lift up your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the people of Israel may go through the sea on dry ground." If I was Moses, I'd be buffering. I'd be like, what? God says, what? He says, I'm about to defy the laws of nature concerning my people. You thought I was done? Listen, Waymaker, miracle worker. That's who he is. And so he makes a way where there seems to be no way. He splits a whole sea. Guys, come on. That's our God. He splits the Red Sea so the Israelites can walk on dry ground. He says, "And I will harden the heart of the Egyptians so that they shall go in after them. Hey, and I will get glory over Pharaoh and all his hosts, his chariots and his horsemen. No matter what guns they come with, your God is the God who splits seas. He's the way maker who makes a way where there is no way." Come on, man. I love the Bible. "And then the angel of God, who was going before the host of Israel, moved and went behind them. And the pillar of cloud moved from before them and stood behind them, coming between the hosts of Egypt and the host of Israel. And there was a cloud in the darkness, and it lit up the night, without one coming near to the other all night. Then Moses stretched out his hand, loved one, over the sea, and the Lord drove the sea back by a strong east wind all night and made the sea dry land, and the waters were divided. And the people of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground. That's our God. Waters being a wall to them on their right and on their left. As if this is not even mind-blowing enough, right? The Egyptians pursued and went in after them in the midst of the sea, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots and horsemen. And in the morning watch, the Lord in the pillar of fire and the cloud looked down on the Egyptian forces and threw the Egyptian forces into a panic, clogging their chariot wheels, so they drove heavily. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from before Israel, for the Lord fights for them against the Egyptians." You don't even have to explain yourself when it comes to God fighting for you. It is your enemy, loved one, who will say, "Let's stay away from the city," because obviously her God is doing way too much, working overtime. And this is what the Egyptian says. And then it says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand over the sea, that the water may come upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon the horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to its normal course when the morning appeared. And as the Egyptians fled into it, the Lord threw the Egyptians into the midst of the sea, and the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the hosts of Pharaoh and who had followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained. But the people of Israel walked on dry ground through the sea, the waters being a wall to them on their right and left. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians. And did you hear that message, loved one? Did you see how great our God is? He's the God who makes a way even when we panic and we don't see no way. Instead, all he wants from us is not the complaints. It's not the "but God, Why am I here? Did you bring me here to die? Did you bring me here to suffer? But to say, Lord, I know you. I know your works. I remember your deeds, your marvelous deeds you've done from days from old. And I believe, Lord, that you are going to make a way. And therefore you remain still and be silent and wait on God to show up and show off. What? Love it. Love this account of God and his character. Listen, in your life, you may have many troubles. You may have prayed for many things. But the answer to the prayer, the process towards the answer, it might not look like what you thought it would. It might have a lot of ups and then a lot of downs. It might come with a lot of flames of fire and a lot of challenges. But you never doubt. Keep setting your hope on God because he's faithful. He made a way for the Israelites where there was no way, and he will do the same for you. If you know that God has made a promise to you, hold fast to that promise because he is not a man that he should lie. I hope that this message today reminds you to stand firm as Moses encouraged the Israelites to stand firm in their faith in God. This is not to say that you won't feel scared from time to time, seeing the chariots of the Egyptians and the challenges and the obstacles that seem to stand in your way, aka the Red Sea. But even in view of that, remember, we see not with the eyes of the flesh, we see with spiritual eyes of faith. You know, even though you don't know right now and it's not making sense in this moment, how you're going to get to the promise. You know that your God is the same God who gave Abraham a child in his old age, is the same God who parted the sea for the Egyptians, is the same God who held the sun up. Come on. When the Israelites were at war, he's the same God who seems to always make a way where our human minds think there's absolutely no way. Regardless of your background, regardless of where you've been and what you've done, regardless of anything, your Lord is able, your God is able to do all things. Nothing is impossible with your God. Let that always be your reminder. Even as you see the waves, like Peter saw the waves when he was walking on water. See the waves, but stand firm in your knowing that your God will always make a way. I feel like preaching up in here. I feel like I'm preaching up in here. Do you hear what I'm saying to you, loved one? Stand firm, be still, and know that he is God. He's God, and he's going to pull through for you. I know that for a fact. That's a wrap, loved one. I hope that this scripture edified you and reminded you who your God is. Walk in that encouragement. And as you see the challenges and the pain points of life come at you, remind yourself that my God is faithful. Even in view of all these things, I know there's a greater plan. But even if, remember Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, even if, have that even if faith. Because at the end of the day, our reward truly is in heaven. I love you, and I hope today was yet another day that you counted towards obedience in the Lord, because it is wonderful to obey the Lord. His ways are foolproof. His ways are for our good, and therefore I hope you were able to obey and walk in love in every space that you occupied today. But if you did not, you have an opportunity still right after this video to begin walking in the light. I hope that today was a good day in the Lord, and that he held you up and he strengthened you and he comforted you. And if you feel like you're far from him, he says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. So draw near to him and see how you will benefit from the blessings of the Holy Spirit in your life.